It looks like we're getting some new X-Men. What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today we're going to be taking a look at the May 2025 developer update and ranking the new cards coming to Marvel Snap this season. I'm always a big fan of these developer update videos, and I have not watched this yet. Going in blind, though, I do know what some of the new cards coming are, so this won't be a total blind look. I had a quick preview for some of these Series 5 cards. Very cute animation, though.
Did you see the new X-Men season of Marvel Snap?
I think Ben Brown and I got the same phone. Great phone for Marvel Snap.
Crazy, right? And so is the card you get with the season pass.
Yeah,
Esme
so
Cuckoo.
this one I am already familiar with. I might make myself a little bit smaller here so that I don't block Ben Brode or these cards' names. But Esme Cuckoo? Let me hear how Ben just said it.
Crazy, right? And so is the card you get with the season pass. Esme Cuckoo.
Cuckoo. Really? This is how you say cuckoo? This is cuckoo's nest? Cuckoo? I did not know this is how you spelled cuckoo. I've never had to spell it, thank goodness. But I guess I probably did have to spell it when I read that book in high school or something, right? But Esme Cuckoo is the season pass card, and she seems nuts. I don't have... I don't think there's any way around that. I think that she is really, really good. So... little bit to unpack here. She's a 3/4. She gives you a 3/4 copy of a card in your deck. I'm assuming that this 3/4 copy is going to behave like a Valentina copy of a card, meaning it can get interacted with by Morbius, making it a whatever cost it should normally be. Either like your own Morbius to make it lower if it was actually a lower card, like you hit your Bast by accident or something, or your opponent's Morbius can make it higher if you're trying to use this to discount a 6-cost card. Similarly, I think you'll be able to use Luke Cage to set its power higher to 4 if its power was initially higher, or Shadow King to go either way, either player playing a Shadow King on it, similar to like an Anti-Venom copy of a card, though the Anti-Venom is not making copies, right? So it's going to function a little bit differently than that. This will pump up Mockingbirds. This will get eaten by Strange Supreme. This will get discounted by Quinjet. And yeah, there's some potential, I think, there. You could go like Quinjet into the card, or card into the Quinjet, and then you could like frigate it back, and then you've got another cheap copy of it. All of these things seem very interesting, but that doesn't even touch on what you can copy with Esme, and she just seems cuckoo to me. If you hit like an Iron Man or something, that's obviously ridiculous. Honestly, if you hit anything and you're able to get a discount on it, I think that all of those things are going to be pretty powerful. Even if you hit something like Onslaught. A 3/4 Onslaught is very, very good. Heck, a 3/4, what's it called? It's not called Moon Girl. Moonstone could be very good. Now, interestingly, I believe the way that this is going to function will be that it won't actually be a 3-cost card for the purposes of like Moonstone interacting with it further. So you won't be able to do crazy stuff like that. However, it's just crazy to draw a card. Drawing a card in Marvel Snap is an incredibly powerful ability. I cannot stress that enough. And even though you are not technically drawing a card, and I'll tell you where the technicality comes into play, you couldn't just use this draw card and like thin your deck in that way. However, you still get, it's basically like, I mean, you have to pay a little bit of extra energy for it, but when Copycat hits something in your opponent's deck, generally that's going to be pretty good. Copycat is a good card, and it gives you a 3/4 copy of a random card from your opponent's deck. Well, Cuckoo is a 3/4 copy of a card from your own deck, which means it's already going to be more synergistic with the other cards that you are playing, because you get to copy a card that you put in your deck. It is a little bit more expensive, that's the cost. It also has synergy with Victoria Hand. There's so many, like, this is synergy with so many things. It's ridiculous. Because it is a card in your own deck, that does mean that you have a little bit more control over it too, compared to Copycat, other than just like choosing the pool of cards that you have to pick from. You can also decide to play Esme or not. Like, say you already have Iron Man in your hand, and Iron Man would be the best possible hit in your deck, and this is just a very straightforward example. Well, then you know that Esme is not going to be able to high roll, so you have less incentive to play it. And one thing that I was kind of thinking could be a little bit silly, but hear me out. Howard the Duck actually has some synergy with Esme. It's not going to allow you to choose which card you copy. However, if you're playing like Esme and Iron Lad, then playing Howard the Duck gives you information on, well, should you play your Iron Lad that turn? That one's pretty straightforward. Or should you play your Jubilee that turn? Both of those things we can understand because those are interactions that we already have. However, if the top card of your deck is a bad card for you to Esme, you could wait, draw the card next turn, and then play Esme, and you won't be able to copy that specific card. And that is the main distinction why Esme is not a card drawer, and that is because she does give you the opportunity to copy something and then immediately draw it the next turn. And those odds will increase as you get later into the game. If you play a turn 5 Esme, you've got like a 1 in 4 chance, roughly, depending on what deck you're playing. If you're playing, I mean, this is probably not an RSM card realistically, which is cool. It's hard to design cards that aren't RSM cards. Though I think making them cost 3 is probably a start to making them not RSM cards, but I guess everything's either an RSM card or a Silver Surfer card, maybe. But this is also definitely a Silver Surfer card, and potentially getting a pair of Silver Surfers could be a really scary, powerful thing. Now, that is not the top end of what Esme can do. If you're grabbing a copy of a 3-cost card, I don't think that you're really stretching the limitations of what Esme is going for, but I do think that it is worth just, I don't know, there's so many different things. I don't know if I've even covered all of them. I mean, like, yeah, hitting Brood, hitting Captain Carter, all of these things are good. You can look for things that benefit from having more power. You can also look for things, yeah, what about, no, probably not Deadpool, probably not Human Torch, but I think anytime you go the other way with either a 3-cost card that enjoys having more power, or just a 4, 5, or 6-cost card that enjoys being able to be cast because it costs so much less, I think that all of those are really fantastic hits on Esme, and I think that this might be, there's no way, I mean, it's tough to say the most powerful card, the most powerful season pass card we've had in a while when we just had Sam Wilson. I don't think this is Sam Wilson. However, let's say Sam Wilson's here, Iron Lad's here, Galacta's like right here. It's potentially rivaling Iron Lad. Potentially. I think that there's a variety of decks that this can go into. Already, I think that it breathes some life into some existing archetypes while also helping out some forgotten archetypes and setting up for some new ones. So what more can you ask for? Well, I guess we can ask for some more cards, though we'll also see what Ben has to say about Esme here.
She clones a card from your deck and places it in your hand.
So they use it to get an Iron Man, of course.
I like to clone White Tiger and
That's
Jubilee.
Insane. White Tiger, Jubilee, also good.
Hey, if you think these
All seem like fine
check out the new
examples.
Surge card releasing the
Now, Surge is a tricky one. So it's a 2/2, on reveal, give the top card of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. After you play that card, repeat the ability, and you can keep going. So if you play that card on turn 3, then on turn 4, you'll draw a new Surge card. I'm expecting this card to have some pretty nice visual effects, so that way you can tell which cards are surged and kind of just pass it down the line. And this does seem cool, giving cards cheaper costs, giving cards plus power. This also feels like it's going to slot into the Silver Surfer deck and have some pretty good things that you can do with it. Outside of that, it's a little random, I think, but if it just hits a 6-cost card and allows you to play that 6-cost card on turn 5, that's probably still pretty good, and it could just be a realistic ramp card. I don't think that that's out of the range of possibilities for this, and then on the final turn, whatever gets surged isn't going to have that big of an impact. You're really just playing it so that you can, like, Arnim Zola a blob, for instance, or I don't know, Arnim Zola something else that's big. Arnim Zola like a leader? I don't know, that probably gets a little bit out of hand, and that's not really where Marvel Snap has been in a bit. There hasn't really been just ramp 6-cost decks in a while with like Electro. There is sort of the War Machine deck, but I don't really see this slotting into that. Actually, maybe it could. I'm thinking about the Red Wing version of that deck, but maybe this could slot into just a more typical War Machine Electro deck. I'm not sure if that's super exciting. I think we're the best applications for this. And the other thing to think about, like, cost reduction is always more impactful on lower cost cards. If you give a 1-cost card minus 1 cost, that is a 100% discount. Even still, you give it to a 2-cost card and that's a 50% discount, 3-cost card, that's a 33% discount, etc. You get the point. It is a higher percentage of the cost to hit cheaper things, and cheaper things can have more scaling associated with them. I'm thinking like Mr. Sinister. Your 2/4, which is like a fine rate, all of the sudden becomes a 1/6. It's a 1-cost card that makes 2 3-power cards. That seems pretty reasonable. It's not super crazy, but you can see there where the +1 power gets a little bit more out of hand. Nico is also a potential doubler, and some of these things could work well together. One thing that I would be curious about, okay, what if you use Nico or Frigga to copy a Surge card, get that copy back into your hand, the Surge will trigger on the next card, but then is the card in your hand still Surged, the copied card? I think it would be, so I think you could play that Surge card or the new Surged card. So you would have 2 Surged cards in your hand, and both should have the after you play it, repeat this ability aspect to them. So that could be an interesting thing to play around with. I don't think Surge is crazy. Right now, definitely, we're going to put it below Cuckoo, but we'll see how the rest of this season's cards shake out. And we'll also see what Ben has to say about Surge.
To wear special gauntlets to contain her electric powers. In Marvel Snap, she starts a chain reaction when played.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, Dazzler, yeah, 2-cost card, that's always good.
She'll amp up your ramp deck, or pair her with lots of 1-cost cards that you can bounce, like Hood, Iceman, and Silver Sable.
Oh yeah, just bouncing them.
Zap.
So I wonder if, yeah, that was just an indication that if you bounce the cards, then you can replay them and surge them again. That actually already seems pretty cool. Nico is probably like the best among those, but even if you just wind up, yeah, because you could play multiple surge cards in a turn, and then you're surging the top card multiple times, and I wonder if you can pass on, like, then does that card have double surge? Certainly it would have -2 cost plus 2 energy. Now, like, this might not all be possible. Once you play a surge card, it might lose its surge status, but I don't know. It doesn't say, like, just for a turn. So I think that cards are permanently surged, and then you could double surge a card, and then that might pass on 2 surges to the following card. I think that there might be some cool things that Surge can do. Bounce was not something that I had on my radar, so that seems cool.
Next period. Did you study?
Study? I'll just do my best Prodigy impression again.
Okay.
What you talking about, Ben?
Geography test I aced. I'm basically just like the mutant who miniaturology
Oh,
powers buildings.
Prodigy, yeah,
In Marvel
being
Snipes,
behind
when
someone
Prodigy's
and,
in the
and
back,
copying off of them. That's perfect flavor. So Prodigy is a 3/4 with on reveal. If this is in the back row, copy the text of the card in front of it. And this seems pretty cool. I love that we are playing around with this design space of being in the back, being in the front. The fact that in a location, there are 4 slots, and this is going to look exactly at the card in front of it. So if it's the 3rd card played to a location, it's going to copy the 1st card played. And if it is the 4th card played, it's going to copy the 2nd card played at a location, which is a little bit of a bigger ask, but I think this seems pretty cool. And one thing that came to my mind immediately, I was like, okay, well, what do you play at a location that you want additional copies of at that same location? And Wong was the first thing that came to my mind. So you could play Wong, then you could play maybe Mystique, or maybe just another card to send power to other locations. And then you can play Prodigy to copy Wong's ability. It will only copy the ability once, I think. Yeah, it's got to only copy it once, like Mystique, right? So, because it says copy the text of the card in front of it. So then it just becomes a Wong. It no longer has this Prodigy ability. One way that you could sequence this is you could go Wong into Silver Surfer, into Prodigy behind it. Sorry, I'm not sure I'm doing this. Let's do it right here. So Wong into Silver Surfer, into Prodigy, and that will just give you a Wong. But then when you play in Odin, Odin will copy the Silver Surfer 4 times, similar to how it already does with Mystique, but this just gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you could curve these cards out. And again, the Odin isn't going to re-trigger the Prodigy, but the Prodigy will allow you to re-trigger the Odin more times. And I think I said 4 times. No, the Odin will trigger 4 times. The Silver Surfer will trigger 16 times and give you a huge Prodigy and a bunch of huge power to the cards at the other location as well. So this seems really, really cool to me. What other uses does it have outside of Silver Surfer? I don't know why that's where my brain goes. I think it's a popular deck right now, and we're seeing a lot of 3-cost cards this season. But I do think that a lot of these are made for Silver Surfer, and that's kind of the interesting thing about all of these cards. It's like they are all pretty strong, but like you could only put 12 cards in a deck. And there are already 12 cards in a Silver Surfer deck. And honestly, there's probably already 15 cards in most Silver Surfer decks that are already competing for slots. So while I do think that all of these cards are powerful, I would certainly put Prodigy above Surge, but below Cuckoo in my own power rankings. But it is going to be tough to find the slots for these to slide into. Now, what else could Prodigy be copying? There are some interesting things that you can do with this and the Sam Wilson shield. Specifically, if you have the shield in a location, you could have Captain Carter, Sam shield, and then play Prodigy, copy the Captain Carter, move the shield out, and then move the shield back in. And Prodigy will now be a frontline Captain Carter, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of other cool things I'm sure that you can do with Prodigy. I'm just thinking of things at the top of my brain right now because they are already highly competitive things. But I wonder if there are some other things that would be rebirthed a little bit with this. There are potentially some other cool build-arounds. I'm thinking about Elsa, which likes to be early on in a location, not necessarily by definition, but it could be cool to go Elsa, what are they called? Mysterio clones, and then a Prodigy, and now you have double Elsa while you're trying to fill up your other locations. That seems like it could be an angle. I think the curve for that is a little bit tricky because you typically would go Mysterio into Elsa. at which point Prodigy would have to be the fourth card. But that is still possible because you could go, okay, yeah, here's the curve. Turn 2 Mysterio clone, turn 1 Kitty Pryde, turn 2 Mysterios, turn 3 Elsa, turn 4 Kitty Pryde into Prodigy. So you've got Mysterio, you've got Elsa, then you have Kitty Pryde that's going to bounce, but that's card number 3 temporarily, and all of these things that I'm doing need to be mirrored. Apologies for that, but I'm doing it how it like would visually look to me so that I don't get confused. Anyways, then you play Prodigy, that copies Elsa, Kitty Pryde picks itself up, Prodigy slides over, but it's still in Elsa because it already copied the Elsa that was in front of it. So that is a way to get 2 Elsas. I'm sure there are other cool cards to have 2 copies of that are interesting build-arounds. Elsa is just the first one other than like Wong that comes to mind. I think that Prodigy is going to be good. Let's see what Ben has to say about him.
It copies the text of the card directly in front of it. Try copying Ant-Man and Goliath's homework. Or
Ant-Man's fine. Oh yeah.
Mystique out for a date.
Moonstone,
Or Mystique.
Mystique.
Shift into Moonstone. And don't think you can just play Elixir next turn and be revived at its location.
Okay.
It's gonna take
Elixir
more than a
is coming. So Elixir is a 2/3 that says on reveal, one of your cards destroyed last turn gets revived here. Pausing for helicopter, potentially. But I think I can probably just talk through it. So this is an interesting ability. This one is brand new, and I don't know what we're going to do with this one yet. Specifically because it says one of your cards destroyed last turn. So you can't use this on the final turn to like play around a ShangChi. I'm not sure exactly what this is angling for. You could potentially use it alongside Arnim Zola in some weird scenarios, but even then you are still like that's a tricky curve, I think, to manage. So I'm not sure exactly what Elixir wants to do. And again, like, you have to probably play some kind of cool destroy card and then the next turn play Elixir. And the reason that I make that distinction is like there are some Nimrod decks that will do something like Venom plus Deathlock on the final turn. And you couldn't just go Venom plus Elixir on the final turn. That's not going to work. So this is going to require a little bit more build around. It doesn't slide into any existing decks that I can think of, and specifically even something like Destroy, which is the only deck I can really think of right now that is currently trying to destroy its own cards for profit. There are Misery Firehair decks and there are Phoenix Force decks. Those are certainly in smaller numbers. The point I was trying to make with Destroy, though, is Deadpool does not work with this. Wolverine, X-23 do not work with this. That's because those cards revive themselves anyways, and that means that they don't go into the destroyed tab, and then you can't elixir them back, because you can only elixir cards out of the destroyed tab when you click on your own profile there. So that is definitely all going to be interesting limitations on this. I think for right now, this is the worst card that we're seeing this season. And somebody could sound off in the comments and post the sweet Elixir deck that they are brewing. I'm sure that there are interesting things with it that you could do, and maybe even this will be like a card to watch in the future, like with Firehair. It is sort of an Absorbing Man style card, because if you bring back an on reveal card with something like that you destroyed by Misery, it only brings back one of your destroyed cards last turn, but if you are able to bring back a Misery destroyed card, you will get to repeat that on reveal ability again. So these are all somewhat interesting things. Trying to think of what other cards destroy things for value. I was thinking like Annihilus destroys your sentries, but that's not really something that you care to bring back if Annihilus already did the job of destroying it. So I'm not sure where else to go for Elixir. The primary thoughts are definitely going to be Misery cards. And then, like, is there enough with Misery and Firehair and Elixir all coming together that something could be powerful. One thing that is interesting here is this is an on-reveal ability, meaning that you could trigger this with Misery later on in the game. So if you have some weird curve where you are destroying the hood or destroying anything with something earlier on, you Elixir to bring it back, but then like you're going to Misery, you're going to destroy it again, you're going to bring something else back. This almost requires like a Tuma to make sure that you're destroying enough cards to get the value out of it. And I think that I can't see the curve right now. So right now, for now at least, I'm putting Elixir at the bottom of my May 2025 tier list. Apologies for the helicopter circling around. I hope everyone's all right, and I hope that you can't hear it that much. Yeah, I'm probably not going to have music over this part either, am I? So, yeah, I don't know. No music. But that is my current thoughts on Elixir. Let's see what else we've got and what Ben has to say.
You and me.
Or
After my club. In
whoever's
the
talking
parking
right
lot.
now.
You are dead meat.
So that wasn't super exciting. We just heard, and apologies, I don't know this developer's name. We can go back. Cisnet, Ricardo.
It's gonna take more than a gold skin new X-Men to bring you back.
So here they're bringing back something that got Shang-Chi'd. People just aren't going to Shang-Chi you, not on the final turn. They didn't really even have anything for that one. So the developers, I think, kind of sold that guy short a little bit too. Elixir, I think it's just not there yet. So maybe Elixir just needs a little bit more time to cook.
Do you smell that?
Well, let's smell.
Sorry about
Do you
that.
smell what the
I
Elixir
guess
is cooking?
Oh, Jason, what is that?
It's my new aftershave.
More like a repellent.
Exactly. It's called Zorn, named after the mutant.
Okay, interesting. Zorn is, I think going to be below Elixir, which is interesting because my initial thought was that we had a lot of powerful cards coming out this season. I think they were kind of front-loaded, but I think that Zorn is an interesting card. We got a 2/3. After any 3 or 4 cost card is played here, move it to another location. So 2 things that you kind of have to read with this one. One is, how can you take advantage of this? Honestly, it's really just Vulture, honestly, that I can think of. Surely that can't be it. I don't know. I'm sure that there's something else that I'm not really thinking of right now, but as far as I know, Vulture is really okay. Also Phoenix Force. Okay. This is like a easy move for specifically just Phoenix Force, though. So it's still a little bit of a stretch. Phoenix Force Vulture tends to be a little bit expensive, and people don't play for that. But that's at least interesting to consider. What this card actually is trying to do, though, I believe, is be a tech card against Silver Surfer decks. And if your opponent is just playing a bunch of 3-cost and 4-cost cards in their deck, which Silver Surfer decks tend to do, sometimes with a Sam Wilson right now, or some other 2-cost cards, depending on, Surge or something like that. Zorn just gets to come down in a location, though, and say, none of your cards get to get played here, which is interesting. But Silver Surfer decks are kind of used to playing around this effect already because of the location that does a similar thing. And so Silver Surfer decks have access to Brood, which can do 2 different things against Zorn. And it does mean that you could also do these things with Brood, but you're not really getting that much value here. So you can either play Brood in a different location to try to fill it up, and then your cards that you play into the Zorn location will have to stay there because they've got no room to move. This will typically be on the final turn if your other locations are all filled up. The other thing that you can do is play Brood into Zorn, and this will give you 2 Broodlings at the Zorn location, and then Brood will skedaddle, but you still have 2 Broodlings that you can power up with Silver Surfer to outpower Zorn, and even just the Broodlings are going to be able to outpower Zorn. So as a tech card, I don't see it, and it has to kind of exist in a Morbius space where it's a good thing to be disrupting your opponents with while also getting some value out of it yourself. I mean, Morbius isn't always played like that. Am I saying, yeah, it's Morbius. No, it's Mobius. I keep saying Morbius. I've meant to say Mobius this entire video. Apologies, I always get those two mixed up. But similarly, like Mobius, when you can play it in Pixie and use it to disrupt your opponent, is when it's at its best, of course, though it's also just a fine tech card on its own. I think that this is not a fine tech card on its own, and I'm curious to see what else they have to say about Zorn, but unless they ring in with something else that I'm not thinking of, I think that this is front runner for worst card of the season. So let's see.
From the new X-Men, who repels others through magnetism. In Marvel Snap, he repels
Okay,
away
Scream,
cost cards played at his
but they can just
location.
not play there.
I'm pretty sure the smell would move even Colossus.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's going to do it. Let's see. I'm not sure what else is in this video, if we're going to talk to an artist or if we're going to see all the cards up on the screen, but I think I've got my power rankings for
It had so
right
much
now, at
power
least.
to easily win both of this season's new locations, the Pit of Exile
Oh, okay.
or
2
Genosha.
new locations. These are always fun to look at. I think I'll talk about these more in YouTube shorts when they are actually coming out. But after turn 5, all but your highest cost card here are destroyed. Okay. That's interesting for Elixir. It's good for Firehair with similar capacity. It's also just good for like Thanos stones to be able to clear those out. And cards with 10 power or more can't be played here. That's also a good Thanos location. I just got Thanos on the brain right now. That also, because of course you can bypass that with Space Stone, though I think more commonly that location can just be won by your opponent's deck. And you can still sneak under a Mockingbird and an Eliath, so there's still some powerful things that you can play at that location. After turn 5, all but your highest cost card here are destroyed. It's good to play a Hood. It's a bad clog card, bad clog location, which is nice. And that's why I was saying the stones could work at it, because you could play your stones there early and then just get them destroyed, so you have more room to play your cards to other locations. Sure, yeah, don't have anything else to say there.
The only location is Powerless in.
I'm just laughing at like the silliness of the laugh track, and then
Oh, I'm
these
sorry.
guys just
Too
laughing.
soon?
I don't even hear what they're saying.
Zach! I mean, Mr. Hines.
Principal product manager.
Word around the teachers
It's
lounge
funny.
is that you
So one thing that is interesting is previous things that would have been season pass variants, or I'm sorry, Spotlight Cash variants, yeah, now are potentially just going to be in the shop or offered in different ways in the future. I'm thinking specifically about the Marvel Rivals season, which had like thematic Spotlight variants. And it seems like that might be what they went for this time, with one studio to create a variant for everything within the same season.
Ben,
That's my cue. I hope you enjoy the new X-Men season and can't wait to hear about all your new adventures online. Peace!
So looks like
You bet, bub.
that is all we're getting. We're not getting... One thing that I always liked with Spotlight Caches is we always had an image that kind of summarized all of the cards, and I could talk about them with all of them on the screen at once. I think I remember them all, though. Importantly, no new Series 4 cards coming out this season. The ones that we got this current April season, a week early with the release of Snap Packs, were basically next season's cards. However, for the purposes of rotation, I believe, last I heard from the devs, those will be rotating as if they are actually April cards, and then May just won't have any new cards, at least that we know of just yet. There's going to be no bonus mode this season, no High Voltage, no Deadpool's Diner, no Sanctum Showdown. The devs have teased that there will be something coming later on in the month. No clue what that is. I have also heard a little bit of rumblings of like competitive Marvel Snap tournaments, or a tournament specifically. I shouldn't pluralize it. I think just one tournament is all that we've been told about, but I'm not expecting that to be as soon as this month myself personally. But I'll be happily surprised if it is. Anyways, let's rank the new cards coming out this season. I'm going to throw up a rough tier list here actually, because we don't have that summary image, and I'm also going to include a few cards from the April season, specifically Captain Carter, who is entering Snap Packs for the first time with the start of this season. And it's hard to say that she's not an S. I do feel like I would like to just leave a little bit of a space, though, just so we can really define what an S is as really, really powerful cards. And I'm also going to throw on the cards that just got added to Series 4 this week, and that is going to be Fanfei, Topaz, and Batroc. And Batroc is either a high A or low S, I think. Definitely seeing a lot of play. Probably needs to get nerfed. So I guess that does make it low S, and I think that's probably a fine place to put it. Topaz has really not impressed me. I thought it was going to be better than it was, but it doesn't work with Iron Fist or Aranya in its current state, so it's kind of just not playable. And Fanfei, also kind of not playable because it's just way too expensive and kind of winds up like clogging you up. It could almost possibly be a low C, but I think you probably want to skip on both of these cards, to be totally honest. So next up, we've got Zorn. Oh, that's not going to be much better. Yeah, if these cards are Ds, Zorn is definitely also a D. Elixir could sneak into C. I think that Elixir will be more fun than Fanfei and Topaz, and you'll have some more reasons to want to consider it. Let's not bury the lead here. I'm going to throw this Cuckoo card up at the top of S tier. I think it's going to be one of the best cards in the game in this iteration of it. So looking forward to that, I don't know. I'm going to be free to play this season probably, so I won't really be looking forward to playing against it. Prodigy, it does seem cool. I was struggling a little bit to try to figure out cards to make it work. I think that it's certainly better than Elixir, so I don't think I'm comfortable putting it in Elixir's tier, though Elixir will have some fans. I think Elixir will have some fans with the Misery decks and the Phoenix Force strategies that it gets to go into. Surge, certainly a step below Captain Carter and a step above Prodigy, but I mean, it could slide in here. Prodigy could go down here. I think that this is probably a reasonable setup if we're considering like the grand scheme of Marvel Snap cards. Yeah, Surge is probably not an A tier card, if we're being totally honest, right? So I thought initially this was going to be a pretty powerful season. I think we're actually looking at a pretty powerful season pass card, but the rest of the cards I don't think you're going to have to stress about picking up just yet. At the very least, maybe we can see how they shake out before cracking some snap packs for them. But for today, that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.